Naofumi Iwatani, a top-tier pro in every realm of imagination. A top-tier pro in almost every single game possible. But to him, it seemed as if he had some sort of disease. Periodically throughout the day, he would go to sleep, gone, out, as if something was going on, as if he was sleepwalking entirely. Naofumi didn't know much about it, even had tests with doctors which they concluded that he must have some outer body experience or maybe some sleep deprivation instances. As a gamer himself, he stays up night and day basically working on his craft, being the best at what he is, and since he plays and goes pro in almost every single game imaginable, of course he might deal with sleep deprivation. So maybe that's exactly why. So this is why it became very, let's just say, normal to him. It became extremely normal. Naofumi would go around, sometimes pass out in his home, sometimes pass out while playing video games. And it's just one of those things. He would pass out and then wake up not too long after, or at least to him, it felt like only a couple hours. But what he didn't know is that there was another side of him that he would have no idea that even existed. It's as if there were two people in one body. Naofumi didn't know this. One night he would be playing video games, being the best in the world, just like how he always is. And another night he'd wake up out of nowhere in a whole brand new area. He looked around and was so confused until one day he began hearing a voice in his head. Voice in his head that sounded just like him, but he wasn't sure what was going on. And he would hear even another voice, seemingly a voice of an almighty power telling him to give the body back. But he wasn't sure what was even happening. Is this a dream? Or is this reality? But imagine if that Naofumi went throughout life in a whole new way. That Naofumi, Moonknight Naofumi, would learn of various things. His simple life in gaming, being a professional gamer, would be flipped on its head when he learned that he was bonded, connected to an Egyptian god by the name of Khonshu, and that he had a job. That him, his other alter ego, had a job to kill those who were more or less terrible people. And he was known at night as the Moonknight. Moonknight Naofumi was now born. But the thing is, now that they're conscious of themselves, conscious of each other, ironically enough, they don't stay in their world for very much longer. He's actually sent away. Sent away almost instantaneously after learning and basically figuring out everything that is going on. After hearing Khonshu's voice one last time, they're teleported to a new plane of existence right next to three other people. One with a bow, one with a spear, and one with a sword. And that is where this story will begin. Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. And I'm back. I'm back with gamer and assassin, Naofumi The Legendary Moonknight. And as always, if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below. All that good stuff. I want to give a quick shout out to one of the people in the Golden Kingdom, Xblick. Xblick actually gave me this thumbnail. We talked about him doing the idea, but then he decided just to let me do it, so he just gave me the thumbnail. So we've been having a conversation about this what if for a little bit, or this what if fan fiction for a little bit, and he was like, you can just take it because he already has so many already lined up and he needs to get some stuff done. So his link will be in the description. Check that out. He's sick. He's gonna start posting more consistently now, at least twice a week, I believe he told me. So yeah, that is about it. So if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below, and let's just get right into the what if. Let's get it. Moonknight, or Naofumi, and his alter ego, the other known as Mark. They are standing there in complete shock. It's as if they're parallels now. They're no longer in separation. Control over the body is still in Naofumi's hands, but they can talk to each other at free will very easily. And when he looks to his right, on top of the people that are next to him, he sees someone else. He sees the god, the Egyptian god, Khonshu, who is questioning what just happened and where they are now. In which, obviously, they have no answers for this, so Khonshu himself wants to figure that out. But during this time, people are sent to greet them. These are the 4 heroes that will save this world, or to their knowledge, here to save Melromark. So Naofumi, Itsuki, Ren, and Matsuyasu are ready to meet the king once and for all. They're brought up to the throne room and they meet that said king. The king of Melromark explains exactly who he is, explaining why they are there to fight the waves of catastrophe. And that's exactly what they will be doing. But when he looks at Naofumi, he sees something odd. It seems that Naofumi has a crescent-like thing, or crescent-like weapon in his chest, and also batons at his hips. It seems that this person, other known as Moonknight, the king doesn't know obviously his name, but this person is different than what the shield hero would have brought. This person can be sensed differently, feel differently. Now what kind of person is this so-called Naofumi character? He questions, or the king questions Naofumi as well, and Naofumi says that he was sent here based upon a lot of different things. Unfortunately, those cannot be disclosed, and he's already agreed to Mark that he would not exclose those things, or expose them by any means. The king says that he doesn't necessarily understand the magnitude, but as long as he can fight, that is all that matters. But he better be prepared for some controversy, because when they hear that the shield hero was replaced, and that some random hero that is unknown came, he might have some backlash. Naofumi doesn't care. He thinks that this is fine, and he can still carry on Khonshu's will, or at least based on what Mark believes. Mark believes that if he can carry on Khonshu's will in this world, he can still be separated from Khonshu at the end of the day. And Naofumi, obviously not knowing much about what actually occurred, doesn't really question it. He's had a good life so far, but maybe one day they'll have that little talk. Maybe one day very, very soon. Soon after a whole conversation with the 4 heroes, they're sent off to have their rest for the night. And that night actually allows Naofumi to conjure up some relatively easy questions. He just asks Mark how long they've been connected. He says all their lives, that they have been connected always. But he's never wanted Naofumi to know of his existence because Naofumi was having a life that he was enjoying. Having a life that was finding success in every realm of possibility that Naofumi enjoyed. He didn't want to conjure up or hurt him in any such way, in which Naofumi understands. But obviously he now knows that this was no disease, for instance. This was just another person within his body, or at least that's what he thinks. He even questions Mark a little further, asking if this is truly a 2-person, 1-body thing. How does that actually work? Mark discloses that it is a 2-person thing, that there are 2 people within this body, and it's him and Naofumi. That is it. Khonshu is a different thing. Khonshu actually gains them and grants them the strength that they have as the Moon Knight. But since this world is so much different, and after learning, of course, about the whole leveling system from everyone else, and frankly Naofumi knowing a lot about it instantly because of how good he is and familiar with gaming, they realize that the best person to actually take the reins, at least initially, would be Naofumi. Naofumi teaching Mark and learning as much as possible in terms of this gaming-like world. And Mark quickly explains that in terms of fighting, which they will have to do, Mark is a trained covert ops specialist, more or less an assassin. He used to be a hired gun at one point. This man was a bad dude. He would hunt down and kill people for a living. Naofumi hearing this is actually kind of shocked. Of course, in his home world, he'd be disgusted at this fact. But at the end of the day, they have to do what they must do to survive. And in a brand new world where they don't know what's even going on, things must be changed and things must be sacrificed. And Naofumi even knows this. But at the same time, they still will provide justice. That is the goal of the Moon Knight, to vanquish anybody who is wrong and does wrongdoings. So they get some sleep that night, and the next morning, the king begins to explain to them everything, and actually starts sending them party members. Moon Knight, or Naofumi, obviously gets none. Frankly, they don't trust him. They don't know who he is, and they frankly don't know if he's even capable of anything. But of course, Naofumi and Mark think that this is just for the best. Of course, Mark already has been working alone his entire life, and that is just the way of the Moon Knight, more or less. That it's better that way. So this whole cooperation between themselves will be their own little party, and maybe in the future they'll get some help from other people. So Naofumi and Mark, or just obviously Naofumi, they head out and begin in search of a blacksmith. Maybe they can get some upgrades based on their armor, because when they try to conjure up the suit, it seems that the suit is of basic variety. It seems like it is the same, quote unquote, as their previous worlds, but the blades are weaker. Everything has a level to it. And the batons that they have, weaker. The blade on his chest, weaker. Anything that you can think of in terms of his armament, regeneration, is slightly weaker. Still really strong. We're talking about a hero that has a quite bit of buffs before even reaching level 2. So of course he is strong in retrospect, but of course not to the strength that he is in his previous world. But maybe there's the potential of being even stronger. By even stronger, I mean extensively stronger. So Naofumi talks to a man by the name of Erhard, asking about getting some special weapons, items, but it seems that they actually cannot use anything. Nothing actually works. But Erhard does suggest that maybe they add different metals to the weaponry that he has already. They try to do just that, as if the gem on his chest, or the crescent that is more or less like a gem, absorbs the metal and even intertwines it with the metal all around him. Every weapon he could possibly hold within himself. And it seems that the weapon actually, or the metal actually upgraded the various weapons that he can use. Even upgraded his just hand-to-hand combat. It's definitely kind of odd, but it's just a rarity of type of metal that makes weaponry stronger. And frankly, he has to grow higher and higher in level so that he can actually get stronger and stronger and sharper metals. But with that said, it's a nice little upgrade. And frankly, they should be able to handle any real monsters that come along, and maybe it's time for some leveling up. So during a walk, Naofumi begins to explain everything, explain the leveling system, explain what stats they should be focusing on, and basically creatures in terms of their levels and how they should counteract it. But he makes it apparent that he'll still be in Mark's head, so he'll be able to speak with him. But he'll let him gain control over the body once they scour a certain forest for certain monsters, because obviously Naofumi himself is not a fighter, but Mark is, and a lethal one at that. Mark nods, more or less in his own head, but thanks him for being so cooperative. Yeah, it's no problem. Look, it's kind of scary thinking that you're kind of a second me, and that you're a killer. But I'm glad you can't kill me, technically, so I guess that's good. But still, nonetheless, I feel like we should be okay. And if you need help and you need advice, I'm right here. I'm like your encyclopedia or something. Your dictionary? Something like that. Mark knows exactly what he means. So when they reach the forest and with tons of monsters there, Naofumi relaxes and relinquishes control to Mark. Mark gains control and begins to strike down monster after monster as if it were nothing. And he actually immediately regards to Naofumi that the movement feels different. His striking feels different. Everything feels stronger already. Naofumi assumed that it would be weaker. That is, of course, that's just how it works in terms of a world that has a leveling system. But he actually underestimated how strong it was entirely. Mark begins to slice through monsters like butter. Low-level monsters at that. Of course, he's not crazy strong to the point that he's going to be destroying like level 50 monsters. But let's just say the leveling up is very, very efficient. And as it's doing this, it seems that there are customizations arriving every so often that he can actually add on to his suit. During this time and during all of this just destroying of these tons and tons of monsters, the god, their Egyptian god, shows up and shows his face once again. Khonshu begins to say that this world is very different than their own. And obviously Mark Spector, or Mark, already knows this. Mark tells him that. But Khonshu says that it's not just that. there are people here that are way, way worse than the people that they've known in their previous world. And that there's basically people that need to be punished. And that will be the goal for Mark to do. Mark and Naofumi. But to them, it's a little different now. They are a quote-unquote hero. But to them, they still feel that they are on the edge of vigilante. At least Naofumi sees it that way. He doesn't really know much other than what Mark has told him, which is a limited amount. But nonetheless, this vigilante hood will continue on for a while. But at the end of the day, they are restricted. They need to level up as much as possible, so being a vigilante at this moment will not be the best of ideas. But what is very interesting that Khonshu doesn't even know is that he has no connection to the leveling system. He can't look, he cannot survey, and he cannot even figure out what the leveling system is about. Naofumi knows it as if it was the back of his hand. It's very similar to various other leveling systems he has seen before. So that is one thing they have up on Khonshu. It's not like they have or they want to kill Khonshu, but obviously they want their separation. Their separation is something that Mark Spector has wanted for a while, but obviously has not gotten. But nonetheless, he looks at the leveling system and sees that he can slowly but surely consume the power of Khonshu. That's what it seems like. By every certain amount of levels, the absorption of that power will continue on, and his strength will not only multiply based on his levels, but every 20 levels will multiply exponentially based on the power he's getting from this Egyptian god. And this makes Mark smile a little bit, knowing that sooner or later this power will be their own. But their leveling up just continues on for a matter of a month. Obviously they need some money, obviously they need some more or less ways to make money, in which they find just that. They are introduced to Loot Village via Erhard, and they actually begin to mine up some ores and gain some money, getting some decent experience along the way, leveling up to about a level of 50. By the end of that month, they're ready for this wave, and they don't know how strong the waves are ideally, but at the end of the day, they could not be stronger than what he is currently. Nonetheless, he goes to check out what the Hourglass has to say, learning that the Dragon Hourglass says that there is 24 hours before the first wave, at least for the heroes. Learning of this, he's about to leave, but the other 3 heroes arrive, asking why he hasn't gotten anybody else to be part of his party. And immediately he switches back to Naofumi, knowing that Naofumi will be able to handle interaction like this way easier than he would. Naofumi just casually tells them that he's more acts as a vigilante in these type of video games. He never was big on group running dungeons and stuff. That he was more of that guy that would solo dungeons. And they ask him if he was some sort of pro, and he actually does admit to the fact that he was a pro in various games, top of almost every single leaderboard, in which in the beginning they don't believe him. But they do say that they've had similar people like that in their worlds. But they never knew that they would be teamed up with someone like him, in which they ask him about details from certain games that he has, obviously not being the same games, but he explains every detail as if he knew it like it was nothing. Easter eggs, and like the best ways to level in specific games, best classes, best optimal areas, anything you can think of, Naofumi knew, and they just were basically inclined to believe him on that regard. So Naofumi then waves them goodbye and says that if he truly needs party members in the near future, he will not let his ego get the best of him, and he just leaves. And the other heroes hearing this, they think about it. Ego? I mean, luckily they don't have any of those, or at least that's what they want to believe. And obviously Naofumi heads off and they begin to speak once again, him and Mark, about what just occurred, and that he actually played it off pretty well. In which Naofumi says that it actually kind of falls in line with what he already knows, because it's kind of true. That's how he is in video games. But it seems like Mark was the same way in real life. And Naofumi even brings up how long he's been doing this. Mark brings up that it hasn't been too long since he's been Moonknight, quote unquote. But he does have suspicion that Khonshu actually had his eye on him for a long time. and that is just something that he had under his belt for a little bit. Khonshu shows up, though, and says that within this next 24 hours, they need to handle some outsider people that need to be punished, some bandit groups and other things like that along the roads. And this will actually benefit their leveling, supposedly. At least that's what Khonshu tries to think about. Because their excuse initially to not be that vigilante at this moment was because they needed to level up. So killing bandits and defeating them would give them levels. So Naofumi, obviously switching back to Mark, heads out to fight these bandits, or these so-called bandits, for this next 24 hours. Finding them along the roadway with someone that has a quote-unquote class upgrade. But let's be honest, this is practically nothing. He wipes the floor with them, as if they were just practically nobodies, villagers. So he defeats them and maybe even kills them depending on how bad they are, and finishes up his little quote-unquote vigilante mission before the next wave is going to arrive. Mark, or obviously the combination of Mark and Naofumi, decide that they will head to Loot Village. That a wave like this, they need to protect a village, especially some people that were actually benefiting them. This world isn't going to be just them running around defeating, killing people, quote unquote. It has to be creating some sort of relationship with the townspeople. Because if you do that, then the freedom that the Moon Knight will have is a lot, and I mean a lot, higher. So Naofumi basically just stays at Loot Village until the next wave arrives. The start of the next wave is one of a spectacle. The clouds, the sky, it all began to change. Even Khonshu himself was shocked at the apocalyptic look of the area around them. And just as it began, monsters began to appear everywhere. Moon Knight, the true Moon Knight, the combination of Naofumi and also Mark, will now be on full display. Naofumi and Mark were the combination. So Moon Knight begins to slaughter monsters at insane and unpredictable speeds, destroying giant zombie-like monsters, destroying skeletons, hornet-like monsters. Everything you can think of would fall in an instant. But just as he's destroying more and more, actually eliminating the mass majority of the monsters there, these odd-looking magical spells begin to rain on Loot Village. Naofumi, or Moon Knight, looks up in the sky and doesn't know what to do, releasing his cape and hoping that this would work. He points his cape to the sky and it creates a giant barrier. A giant barrier used from the moon's reflection. The radiation of the sky itself is helping him. It seems as if the wave has helped him and allowed him to create this barrier, blocking the magic spells that are crashing upon Loot Village. Naofumi, or Moon Knight, looks over to see where those spells came from, to see tons of the knights blasting into the village, basically wreaking havoc. Moon Knight doesn't know what to do. What are they doing? But immediately his legs move without even thinking, dashing over and grabbing the captain of all the knights by the neck and asking, immediately telling him to stand down or else. The knight captain is able to slightly break free, Moon Knight letting him do just that. But this is the problem. The problem lies that this is probably the corruption they've heard about. Them thinking for themselves, the ego behind these people, thinking that they are better than everyone else and that they can take shortcuts to save people. This is why Moon Knight exists, to eliminate the people that are horrible. And it seems like this world is full of them. Moon Knight is about to go grab one of his blades and then slam it into the captain to kill him, but he decides to hold back based on the words of Naofumi. Naofumi tells Mark that they should slow this down, that this will have extreme repercussions. In his previous video games, if you kill someone that is part of the kingdom, let's just say that goes all bad. So Mark decides not to take action on that. Obviously, he doesn't want to be put in a situation that he has to deal with in the near future. But with the clouds and the sky clearing up and the boss being completely finished, Moonknight, or Naofumi, switches back to his original self, or at least the gaming version of himself. Naofumi is then now walking around, asking if everybody is okay and if everyone is doing well, in which they say that they're doing just fine, thanking him and whoever he was talking to for all the help, in which Naofumi kind of laughs about because that is true, they can't hear the other voice inside his head. After helping everybody there, he heads off after hearing that the kingdom is having a state dinner that he was invited to. When he arrives, he begins eating the food there and just having a decent enough time. Nothing too much, but at the end of the day, he's having a good time. Until someone approaches him. Motoyasu approaches him with Mine right behind him, and Naofumi is kind of confused. Obviously, Naofumi hasn't done anything. At least that's to his knowledge, but Mine has informed Motoyasu of his quote-unquote abuse of power. I heard what you did, Naofumi. Something truly despicable. I can't believe you attacked one of the knights. Truly, it's horrible. A hero should never do such a thing. That's why I want to do this. Motoyasu throws a glove on the ground, initiating a duel with Naofumi himself. Naofumi says that he only did that because the knights tried to attack Loot Village and more or less destroy half of it, if not more, just to defeat parts of the wave. But now they knew that Naofumi was there and had it completely handled. Motoyasu refuses to believe him, especially because Mine is whispering sweet nothingness into his ear. So he's forced into a duel. But Naofumi stands there in the arena staring at Motoyasu, Mark asking if they should switch. But Naofumi says that he wants this one. He wants to take a swing at this spear hero. He doesn't like the way he is and he doesn't like the way he acts. He's too egotistical for his own liking. So Mark says that if he does want to go through with this, to go right ahead. He'll coach him through the fights. But also know that it is their body together, so he should be able to do everything Mark can do to a certain extent. So Naofumi nods as he begins to change into the Moonknight once again, but his clothing is far different. He even looks to see what his weapon is. The cloak is there and everything around him shows, but his weapon is 2 small bladed daggers. He's confused. Is this the weapons of my rogue? Well, Naofumi, when he used to play games very similar to this, would actually play more of the rogue class, and he would have two small daggers. Even Mark basically says that that is really cool, and actually sees that the crescent on his chest is more built in than actually available as a weapon. Naofumi spins his daggers, ready for a fight. As the fight begins, the duel seems to be extremely one-sided. Naofumi may not be exactly perfectly tactical, but nonetheless, he's going to outclass Motoyasu by a mile. He's able to parry anything that comes his way, interlock his spear, and counter every single long-range attack that comes right at him, with the power of practically 40% of Khonshu's power, which is just a rough estimate at this point. He's able to overwhelm Motoyasu with relative ease, landing critical strikes to various parts of his body. Even Mark is surprised, asking how does he know about this, and he always says that every boss fight has a gimmick. Every boss fight must have certain aspects, but when in terms of the human body, of course there are weaknesses in the human body. You wouldn't like it if someone punched you in the stomach because it would leave you gasping for air. This is the same idea. With the help of coaching from Mark, Naofumi is able to pinpoint certain spots on Motayasu's body to limit his range of motion, limit his use in terms of his spear, restricting him so greatly that he falls to his knees and he can't even hold his spear up anymore, cutting him in crucial points, and Naofumi even remarks, "You better get that checked out. If not, you might bleed out. We need some medics over here, ASAP. This is over, Motoyasu. I'm sorry whoever told you that believes whatever they want to believe. I am not your enemy, farthest from it. But you need to realize you need to think for yourself sometimes. And I hope you quickly learn that. Well, I need to go. I have some business to attend to now. See ya." Naofumi walks off. But just as he's walking off, Motoyasu tries to struggle to his feet. Mine even screams at him, telling him not to be useless and that he needs to stand up for this horrible use of a hero's power. But Motoyasu even kind of seems confused. Did she just call me useless? What the hell is even going on? Naofumi leaves and obviously heads off and begins speaking with Mark about the occurrence. But that conversation is quickly finished when they have to go handle some business. Vigilante business, more specifically. Obviously, they have a lot of things to attend to. There are a lot of bad people in this world. They learn quickly that it's not just Melromark. There are multiple other countries in this world, so maybe they'll have to pay all of them a visit as well. Naofumi begins his journey. And during this journey, he meets some interesting people, starting with a trader. That trader explains to him all of what he's heard through the grapevine, explains to him a multitude of things, also even explains to him how to trade, make money, and even asks him to go on a couple missions. Naofumi doesn't have a problem with this at all, thinks this is a great idea, make some money and actually handle some business, handle some people doing foul things. That's exactly what Naofumi and Mark frankly want to do. So they head off and begin to scour the area for any possible missions, seeing and meeting some new people from various villages and towns until they finally get their first mission. Their first mission is to actually deliver some herbicide to a certain village that has a bit of an overgrown plant problem. But when he arrives, he sees something horrible. It's monster plants. No overgrown plant problem. This is terrible. The plants are attacking everybody there, and Naofumi runs up and immediately approaches them and begins speaking to the people there, the people of the town. They beg him to help them, please. There's people getting hurt, dying. So Naofumi says that he'll do it, but who did this? How did this even happen? Was it on accident? And they say that it must have been on accident, they're not sure. But supposedly, Motoyasu used this seed and it grew out of proportions and started attacking the villagers. Motoyasu did this. That's one hell of information. Okay, thank you. Well, Mark, I'm gonna tell you one thing. This herbicide won't be enough. We'll have to be using something within our arsenal. Not sure how that works. Do you know anything? Can we channel any energy? Something? Mark begins to say that he's not so sure. He can test something. He tried out some powers that he had before, and it might be able to enhance the seeds, or enhance the herbicide, but that's about it. So there's no guarantee that the plant will die, but they can at least try. In which they switch, and Mark begins to enhance the herbicide based on any power he can conjure up via this world and the one of their own, obviously from Khonshu. So he begins to enhance this herbicide, basically enveloping the plant with this herbicide after stabbing into the core of it and delivering it within the roots. Luckily, this actually does work. Delivering it within the roots made it even more concentrated, expanding throughout the entirety of the monster plant, and luckily killing it relatively easily. This is definitely something that they're happy about, but at the end of the day, this should have never happened. Something like this doesn't happen just by coincidence. Someone must have known. Motoyasu either was misguided or knew himself that something like this would occur. This is just a short list of the horrible things that they would find out that the people or the heroes would be doing. Soon, another mission comes up, and it's just to deliver something. This is a nice break from the whole monster hunter idea. So Naofumi delivers this package to this hot springs relatively easily. And it seems that they aren't getting that much, they're not really getting tired. Their movement is extremely quick. Frankly, they don't really need a mount by any means, but obviously something that could run really fast would be beneficial. But where would they even find an animal, like a monster, that they can even tame? In which Khonshu begins to appear and says that's just it. It seems like there's someone else that isn't the best of people who have encaptured and enslaved people. In which Naofumi is kind of confused, and Mark even referenced the fact that Egyptians did the same thing. So is that really extremely bad? In the eyes of obviously Naofumi And Mark, it's terrible, but why would Khonshu be bringing this up? And obviously this is a different time, different day and age, and the punishment of basically people being horrible is all determined based around the time and age they're currently in. So Naofumi and also Mark decide that they'll head back after their next mission. They deliver this little package, and the next morning they hear about a new mission that they have to head to. It seems like there's a town, or at least a little village, that is under some sort of plague. Naofumi has no idea what would that even mean, but he heads over to see that this whole village is just riddled with this rancid odor. But luckily, the power that he bestows right now as the Moon Knights, he actually doesn't feel this power at all, or at least doesn't feel the plague at all, luckily enough. But he asks the people what's going on, and when he hears what is currently going on, he is not necessarily shocked, but frustrated. He hears that Ren, one of the other heroes, the sword hero, killed the dragon, left it to rot, and now it's spreading, disease like wildfire. So Naofumi gets his preparations, heads up to the dragon that's practically dead and rotting. But when he arrives and begins to try and cut it up, it seems as if the dragon rebirths with life. Now a zombie-like dragon, the dragon begins to roar and spray fire in the sky. Immediately, Naofumi reaches for his weapon, and Mark says that it's time for him to switch. It's time for him to enter the fight. Naofumi nods, and they switch bodies. Mark takes over and pulls out daggers. It seems like he, personally, is taking a liking to these daggers, and during his time, or downtime, he actually figured something out. It seems he figured out that he can actually manipulate the said daggers that Naofumi has for himself. Weapon manipulation may be a thing for both of them, if he just channels it properly enough within his body. And that's exactly what he does, making two daggers that look very similar to karambits but longer, as if they were replicating this odd moon-like shape, a crescent-like shape. He throws the daggers at the dragon, and when they hit the dragon, it begins to basically make this glowing-like effect. Retracting the blades once again, it leaves this lingering effect on the zombie dragon that is temporarily paralyzing it. It seems like Moon Knights, or Naofumi, and Mark have come to terms with even more of their power that is slowly but surely increasing at a rapid rate. Khonshu may be an almighty being, an Egyptian god, but with this leveling system and with the power progression that they have, there is no bound to the creativity that they can come up with. And with an assassin, a killer like Mark, he comes up with some insane ideas. These moon daggers begin to increase in size more and more, and he swings them down with all his strength on the dragon, pinning the dragon to the ground as they continue to expand. It's as if this odd material that is on these daggers, he has full manipulation over. He's not sure exactly what they are, but it must have some connection with some odd moon or the moon-like surface. He can feel it within him. The night then approaches, towering over them. The moonlight itself is causing the daggers to expand, pinning the dragon down. He then takes the crescent off his chest and begins to slice the dragon into bits. A zombie dragon may or may not be alive in some instance, but he doesn't care. He's causing a horrible plague downstairs, down with this village, so he's going to finish the job. So when Naofumi is given back the body, it's all packaged away. The dragon is sliced up, thrown into boxes, and put away forever. In which Naofumi thanks him, and he tells Mark that he does have a really bad, he doesn't have much of a stomach for that type of stuff, and Mark says he knows, he can tell. In which Naofumi's kind of confused. How would you even know something like that? And Mark explains that their memories, their everything, it seems like they're kind of slowly but surely merging. They're becoming one person in a way, but kind of just with two different alter egos. It's interesting, in fact. Naofumi nods and brings down the trash, or more or less all of the body parts, and disposes of it as the best he possibly can, and informs the people of the village that everything is a-okay now. But he actually wants to question Mark about the powers that he basically just shown. How is he able to do that? Is it just expansive power based on what he can do? Is it because of Khonshu? Is it because of what, the leveling system? In which obviously Mark doesn't know exactly what that was. He does know that he's been basically researching more or less while he's been on a bit of a downtime about what to do and how to do it, but he doesn't really understand it per se. Frankly, this whole world is kind of nonsense to him, so it's not too outlandish at the fact that he doesn't know exactly what's going on. But he explains to Naofumi to really not necessarily worry about it. I mean, it's nothing too big or nothing too big of a deal, but still, Naofumi insists, and he says that it must be Khonshu's power mixing with the leveling system. This world has made them far greater in strength than they possibly could have imagined, and frankly, ever could have gotten in their world. Naofumi says he sorta understands, at least to a certain extent, and Mark says that he didn't expect him to understand really at all. But it's fine, it's time for them to head back and deal with this whole little slavery situation. So they head back toward Melramark, running into someone as well, this little girl who's playing with some Philolials. Naofumi even reaches out to her, saying and asking if she's okay. And she says that she's fine, she's just kind of lost, not knowing how to get back home. So obviously, being Naofumi, obviously the kind-hearted Naofumi that we don't really know in the original canon, but his original self, he obviously helps the girl home, or back to the Melramark Kingdom. Obviously he has some issues with them, but still at the end of the day, he doesn't really want more issues with the kingdom in general. So he helps her home and easily brings her there to the Melramark Kingdom, but he's immediately attacked. But why? Why would Multiyasu jump on the opportunity to attack him again, but he quickly sweeps his leg and just pins him to the ground? Look, I'm the nice one, you could say. But I'm not going to take this shit anymore, Multiyasu. So just tell me why I shouldn't put my blade up to your neck and push it. Naofumi then reaches for his dagger and puts it right up to Multiyasu's neck. And Multiyasu says that he's heard rumors that the Moonknight supposedly basically kidnapped the queen's daughter, or the youngest daughter by the name of Melty, in which Naofumi's confused, and obviously Melty is standing right there, saying that that is the most ridiculous thing she has ever heard in her life. Who told her that, or who told him that? In which obviously Mine begins to make this whole stage act saying, oh, we were so worried about you, blah blah blah. And it becomes apparently obvious what Mine is up to. Naofumi lets Multiyasu up and throws him to the side and says not to mess with him again, that he's not going to basically feel so nice the next time. Naofumi puts away his blades and begins to head off, and says that he didn't know that she was royalty. Frankly, all royalty is kind of in the gutter in terms of his opinion. In which Melty says that she has no association with the people that do such a thing. Her sister is toxic, has a toxic personality, and that's why she's not next in line to be the queen. That's why she is. You're just a little girl. What are you, like 10? She takes offense to this, saying that she's smarter than most of the people here, and that's why she's not completely and utterly pissed with Naofumi for any vigilante things that he has in mind currently. In which Naofumi kind of smirks and says that she is smart for knowing that, but still nonetheless this place needs to be put in check. Naofumi then heads off, not really worrying about anything else that is going on there. He doesn't care. He heads to this so-called slave merchant, busting down the door and immediately pinning him to the wall with 2 blades, hanging him up by his clothing. You know, slavery in my book is pretty sinful. Honestly, I should end your life right now. But the real question is, do you know anybody that's been abusing these slaves? You're a merchant, I'll give you that. I might not even kill you because of it. You're just making a living. You know, and In my opinion, it's pretty sinful. But if you give me the information I need, that'll be different. Mark then kind of laughs in his own head. Sounding a lot like me right now, kid. Well, kinda am you, Mark. Okay, tell me what I need to know now. And immediately the slave market owner or the slave merchant tells him everything that he needs to know. Anybody that was associated with slaves, anybody that did some foul or underhanded things in terms of it. And Naofumi learns about some awful, awful things. Not only is mine horrible as a person, she even threw one of her party members into slavery. On top of that, he learns about Rabier and some of these other people, these horrible people that are rulers, but they're disgusting, despicable. Rabier likes to watch people get tortured. That's not something he'll stand for. Naofumi looks around to see everything else, all the other slaves, and even sees a little girl with raccoon ears. What about her? Is she okay? And obviously the slave merchant says that she's not. She's on death's door. At least one day and she'll be done. Naofumi breaks open the cage and grabs her and carries her out to get her some medicine, but the merchant is about to say that he needs to pay, but immediately he retracts the blades and throws another blade at scratching him across the face. I don't need to pay jack shit. You better watch your mouth. He takes back his blade and then goes to get the medicine for the girl by the name of Raftalia, healing her up relatively easily and bringing her to Loot Village. But when he arrives at Loot Village, he learns about these horrible polls and taxes that were put on it, and he refuses to let that stand. He immediately takes down anybody that says otherwise, that they have to withhold the poll tax and the tax for going in, out, whatever. He completely knocks them out, tranks them, whatever he can do, not killing them. Of course, they're just doing a job, but he just knocks them out and throws them off and basically leaves a nice note saying that the Moon Knight was here and that these taxes will no longer stand. He apologizes to Loot Village, saying that he didn't want to be gone for so long, but he needed to help some other people and eliminate some people that were not the best. And he even asked if they could please take care of this little girl by the name of Raftalia, that she is just getting off a sickness, but on top of that, she seems to be withholding some past trauma, in which they help Raftalia a lot. The main people in Loot Village are genuinely nice people, so of course they say that's fine, she's just a little girl, they need to help her. So they decide to do just that. They help her as much as they possibly can, and Naofumi says that he'll be back very soon, in which about 5 to 6 people even meet him there at Loot Village, saying that they were basically the sons and daughters of the people that he saved, and they want to thank him so much and this and that, and they want to join his party. Naofumi says that's not his thing. They can join his party, quote unquote, but it's going to be more of like a sub party, because he doesn't want anything to do with having to worry about party members. If they want to be a part of his party to protect Loot Village and gain extra power, he's fine with that. But other than that, he doesn't want to put them in the line of fire. He's a vigilante, well, closest thing to it. He needs to be on his own. So he decides that he'll add them to the party, but they'll have to find out their own way, leaving them some money and heading off to a new area. While scouting out some more towns, he comes across a ton of people. It seems like it's a refugee, but this refugee is kind of just all over the place. They're begging for food and anything they possibly can get their hands on. Luckily, Naofumi has a little bit of food, but nothing too crazy. He begins to actually head back to get them said food, actually gaining some seeds and other stuff like that, planning it for them. But he wants to know how this even occurred. And he hears the name Itsuki, the last hero, more or less, that is supposed to be protecting everybody. He caused a revolution and then put a government that was just as corrupt as the first one into power. Something so simple, but he didn't have the mind to do it. Even Mark reacts to this and says that that's just horrible. How could you even do that? And he even believes that he's not the best of person. He has his body count. He's killed countless people that maybe didn't or did not deserve it. He's done some bad things, on purpose or not on purpose. Frankly, some of it wasn't even his hands doing it. but he still feels guilty. So the fact that these people can do these things, horrible things, and not even blink twice, and Naofumi cuts him off while they're talking about this, it's because they think it's a video game. They don't realize they don't have you. In which Mark questions what he means. You know the real world, Mark. You get it. You understand how brutal it is, what you've done to survive, what you've done to kill, hunt down the bad people. You understand. I don't. Maybe if I didn't have you, I wouldn't have been like this. I would have been just like them. I don't know that for sure, but there's a chance. I think you're underselling yourself. There's no way you would be like that. Trust me. You are me. Fair, I guess, but still, something to think about. Naofumi then helps the refugees out the best he possibly can. He even says that there's another village down there, maybe they can get some help there, but there's no guarantee. And they thank him for all the help and apologize for the trouble, but of course he says that there is no trouble. He heads off, and he wants to speak with as many of the heroes as possible. Motsuyasu is already on his bad list, but he wants to speak with Ren and Itsuki. He wants to see what they have in mind. So he goes to this little bar, a little tavern of some sorts, and he begins speaking with them. Seriously, you two, we need to talk. You, Ren, you killed a dragon, correct? Ren says, of course he did. But what about it? You left it to rot. You gave that fucking village disease. Are you kidding me? Are you an idiot? This is a real world, you two. This is no video game. Itsuki, you started a revolution and didn't plan out the government problems after the fact. Please. You have to think about the things you are doing. The two of them are shocked to hear this. The after effects of everything they just did. Well, maybe he's right. What the hell? What's even going on? And Naofumi is glad that he got it across to them. Hopefully they can actually get it in their skulls. He says that he'll be heading off now and wishes them good luck on the wave and work together properly, hopefully. But Naofumi says that he'll be protecting Loot Village in the meantime, and if things don't go basically their way, he'll come and try to give them assistance as well. Naofumi leaves without them saying much of anything else, and he heads back to Loot Village as the wave is quickly approaching. When he arrives there, Raphtalia is actually running around looking for him, and begins to thank him for everything, thank him for saving her. It's fine, little one. Don't worry about it. Seriously. You need to just relax and get into a good place where it's safe, because the wave is coming and we'll be here to protect all of you, okay? Raphtalia nods, but is kind of sad. You okay, kid? She begins to say that she wants to help, that she wants to be a fighter like him, in which he shakes his head. You don't need to be a fighter like me. Trust me, you can be better than that. I'm not the role model you should be seeking. But if you do want to be a fighter, I'm sure there's people that will train you. Trust me, I'm sure that will come. But as a gift, Mark even tells Naofumi to raise his hand to the sky and hold it out. He does just that, and a blade begins to be conjured, a small short sword made of this moon-like material. What the hell, Mark? How long have we been able to do this? I don't know. A little bit. Not too long. We're actually getting pretty strong. I can see. That's definitely something. He gives the small moon short blade to Raphtalia and tells her to use it wisely, to be safe and don't jump into the fire as if she was some badass. You're not quite a badass. You're still a kid. He smiles as he gets ready for the wave, and everybody thanks him for his help. As the second wave begins, he turns into the Moon Knight, changing into his cloak, his armament change, and Naofumi tells Mark that it's time for him to go ahead and do his job. Mark says that it's about time, he hasn't been out in a while. He hops into the body and begins to fight off all the monsters that are beginning to arrive. Anything that can possibly hurt anybody is thrown out of the way, sliced down, and cut to bits. Naofumi is just a bystander at this point, watching as Mark is doing his job, studying every movement he does. Naofumi wants to learn from this. Yes, they have the same quote-unquote mind, but it's good to see how much Mark can do on his own. He is an assassin, for a matter of fact. But defending Loot Village would be short-lived. he'll have to put that aside and let the others defend it for him. And he says that he hopes that they can defend it well enough until he can return or finish the wave off. He nods toward them and begins to take off toward the main boss. When he arrives, the heroes are all bickering, arguing, saying that no, their way is right, no, their way is right. Naofumi, or actually Mark in this instance, would interrupt them and tell them to stop bickering and figure out the problem. He throws a blade at the shadow, immediately revealing the first one. Immediately, the Soul Eater appears, and Mark is shocked to see this, but immediately retracts his blade and goes to strike it down. The other three heroes trying to attack it, but no substantial damage is made. Mark is able to retract his blade and slice into the Soul Eater, pulling it back toward him, raising the Soul Eater to the sky as the moon travels directly above Mark, striking down on the Soul Eater, destroying it entirely as if the light itself was a wave of energy. It incinerates the Soul Eater, and Mark puts away his blades just as another Soul Eater arrives. But right before he can take out his blades once again to kill it, something else kills it. No, someone else kills it. Defeating the Soul Eater or killing it instantly, a woman appears out of nowhere. A woman by the name of Glass. Glass is wearing a black kimono and has two twin-bladed war fans. Now this is interesting. Who are you? She introduces herself. Glass, of course, and says that she's here to take down the heroes, to kill them. Now, why would you want to do that? We're just protecting our world, or I'm protecting our world. Why would you want to kill us? Well, it's simple. With you alive, my world cannot live, so you need to die. That's a dilemma. Wow, definitely something else. Would call you a bad person. Can't really do that now. Unfortunate. But unfortunate for you, you chose the wrong world to force to kill. You don't want to do this, Glass. Trust me. Moonknight stands there and pulls out his weaponry as the moon begins to shine brighter and brighter around them. Trust me, you don't want to do this. Glass shakes her head. But I really do. And I really have to. I'm sorry. But all of you must die. Glass begins to shoot everything she possibly can at Moonknight and the other three heroes, but the other three heroes are forced to dodge out of the way, falling off the cliff and or falling off the giant ship. Landing on the ground, Glass realizes that they are nothing, that this one right here is the strong one. So she wants to see what he truly has. You know, if you really knew beforehand what I truly have in my arsenal, frankly, you wouldn't be actually questioning that. He raises his hand to the sky as images of Khonshu are standing behind him. Standing behind him as Glass stares at this monster of a person. This skull face with a scepter-like stick. What the hell is that thing? You see, I'm not myself. I'm not just one person. I'm not even just two people. I have a god, an Egyptian god that is bound to me, in whatever way you see. Yes, he grants me power, but the power I have is slowly but surely gaining, and I promise, this is not a fight you could win, Glass. You might as well pack your little fans and head off now. Well, if you really think that, you must be an idiot, because it won't be that simple. Glass pulls out her war fans, but immediately someone grabs her arm from behind. You know, you should have listened. There's two of them. How is there two of them? What? She looks at Mark, but then turns and looks at the same person, but they're in different clothing. It's the same color scheme, the same ideas, but this person in front of her that she initially saw looks different. But this one behind her grabbing her arm, the clothing is different, the weaponry is different. Mark smiles. It seems we figured it out. It took a little bit longer than I expected, but the separation happened. Pretty good. Now there's two of us, with the same knowledge, with the same fighting skills. Now, Glass, let's really test how strong you are. And let's really see if you have the capabilities of saving your world. And that is a wrap for this first installment of Naofumi the Legendary Moonknight hero, or Naofumi the Legendary Moonknight. Not really a hero, more like vigilante, but if you enjoyed this first installment, gamer and assassin, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below. Yes, I know, before anybody says it, and I'm sure I'm still going to get comments, even though I'm saying this now, I know I just took aspects of Moonknight that are true, and other aspects that probably are not true at all. Actually, I know for sure they're not true. I like doing this, especially with Naofumi What Ifs. I can kind of get really creative with the leveling system and stat patterns and other stuff like that I can be creative with his abilities. I hope all of y'all understand that, and I know most of you will like that, but I know some of you are probably diehard Marvel fans and are probably like, this isn't Moon Knight, stop, this is not Moon Knight. It's Moon Knight. I put my own twist on it, but yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed nonetheless. It's all love, and I appreciate all of y'all love and support all the time, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.
I don't wanna waste what's left.